Okay, Bruchim Abim, everyone. Welcome to the Parsha Shiur on Parshas Vayeshev. This Shabbos, of course, we have the privilege of reading Parshas Vayeshev. It's an especially rich Parsha. There's so much in it. I don't think we're gonna be able to do more than focus on a few points that are so very, very vital for us as Klal Yisrael at this particular time. We're gonna start with a share, and we're going to go right now to our share. If you'll be patient, we're about to get it. Here we go. And highlight this. We'll be there in a moment. We're going to have the share. Make sure I've got the right share. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the right one right now. Okay. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this down just a peg so that everybody can see the entire Sukkim. Okay, here we go. From the beginning of Vayeshev, you all see this, right? Here we are.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're right where we want to be. Okay. So here we are in Parshas Vayeshev, and there's a lot to say, but I want to focus on one thing, which should give us a concept of a theme that throughout the night tonight, try to keep this in mind. The pasuk starts with the Parsha, which says, "Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz Megurei Aviv be'eretz Canaan," and Yaakov lived in the land of the sojournings of his father in the land of Canaan. And I'm going to focus on the next four words. Okay, here we go. The next four words: Eile Toldos Yaakov. These are the generations of Yaakov. Yosef. These are the generations of Yaakov. What were the generations of Yaakov? The generations of Yaakov were Yosef. Now, I normally don't take things out of context, but there is a beautiful Chassidish vart. There's a Chassidish explanation of this particular pasuk that is really worthwhile focusing on. These are the generations of the family of Yaakov. Okay? We're talking about the family of Yaakov. That's us. We are the base Yaakov. That's who we are. We're the base Yaakov. The base Yaakov is the house that was built by Yaakov and his family. It's interesting, of course, that the girls' schools are always called base Yaakov because they are the ones who build the house. And here it says, Eila Toldos Yaakov. These are the generations of Yaakov. Yosef. Yosef is the generations of Yaakov. Says the Chassidish Shavart. It goes like this. You want to know what all the generations of Yaakov are about? You want to know what the purpose of being a Jew is all about? What it means to be a Yaakov in this world? One word. Yosef. Add on. Yosef Hashem li bein acher. Add on your learning, add on your davening, add on your growth as a human being. You want to know what the generations of all the future of the Jewish people are? It's encapsulated in these four words. Eile Toldos Yaakov. These are the generations of Yaakov, Yosef. You can stop right there and you can think to yourself, we're going to apply this throughout the entire evening of our discussion, and to keep in mind that the generations of the Jewish people that we want to promulgate, that will continue on in this world, the one secret to the continuation of Klal Yisrael is one thing: Yosef. Keep adding on to one's loyalty to Yaakov. Ish Tom Yoshevo Holim. He was a complete person who sat in tents. So the very first thing that we're going to focus on, of course, is Eila Toldos Yaakov, Yosef. These are the generations of Yaakov. Yaakov, the most important thing is Yosef that we keep adding on. Now, the next thing I'm going to go to is one of the most difficult chapters in all of the Torah. It has in it the seeds of Mashiach, while at the same time, some of the most negative aspects of the Jewish beginnings, but we're not going to gloss over it. We're going to go right into it. So let's zoom ahead over here. And we're going to go to to the chapter known as Perek Lamed Ches. And this is, I'm skipping ahead, and we may come back to some other points later, but I want to get this in first, in case it takes an inordinate amount of time. I want to make sure it gets finished, and if there are any questions on it, please feel free to ask. This chapter, Perek Lamed Ches, is one of the most difficult prakim in the entire Torah, because it tells us about the distinct humanity of all of our forebears. You've often heard me say, my Talmidim have, and the people in the shul have heard me say many times, the claim to perfection is the claim to falsehood. If anyone thinks that our Torah describes humans as being perfect, then they really got the wrong book. In our Torah, because Hashem gave it to us, and He created us with human foibles and idiosyncrasies, He created us with faults, and we make mistakes. And the greatest of our leaders make mistakes. The king of the Jews, who is Yehuda, makes mistakes. And this chapter tells us that exactly, while at the same time, it tells us the ultimate result of what we can do with a mistake and what mistakes can lead to when dealt with in the right way. So here it is. Vayehi. Let's take a look at this very, very, very powerful perek in the Torah. It was in those days. Now, this is right after Yosef is sold to Egypt. The pasuk at the end says that what happened was that they took Yosef down to Egypt. Yaakov is told about his death. Vayikra Yaakov Simlosav. Here it says at the end of the previous perek, Yaakov ripped his clothing and he put on a sack, and he was Vayesabel al beno yamim rabim. He was mourning right here. Vayesabel al beno yamim rabim. He mourned over his son many, many days, and everybody tried to give him consolation. And he refused to be comforted. Next, the chapter says, it was in those days, Vayered Yehuda me'es Ochiv. And Yehuda was Vayered. Yehuda had a Yerida. He went down. There's a lot more to discuss about this, but we're just going to keep going further. And we're going to notice only that Yehuda went down a step after his involvement with the sale of Yosef, the king of the Jews. Yehuda, ata yodicha yachecha, yodcha ba'oref hayevecha. Gor Arya Yehuda, miterev b'ni Elisa. He was the king, and yet he went down. He lost his stature, and sure enough, he goes to Adullam. Okay, he goes to Adullam, and there was a daughter of a man who was a Canaanite. His name was Shua, and he took her and he came to her and she had a child, and he called the name of the child Er, and then he had another child with her and called the name Onan, and then she had another child and called the name Shelah. So there are three kids. There's Er, Onan, and Shelah. Okay, here we go. Now, the psukim continue on and tell us that Vayikach Yehuda Isha le'er b'chora. Yehuda took a wife for his son Er. And here's the introduction. Ushma Tamar. He chose a wife for his son Er. Her name was Tamar. And Er, the son of Yehuda, was evil in the eyes of Hashem, and Hashem killed him. Vayemiseyu Hashem. Hashem killed Yehuda's oldest son. This is not a pleasant experience. And Yehuda said to his brother Onan, he said to him, Bo Elisha Sachicha, I want you to marry the wife of your brother, because they had no children, and the mitzvah of Yibum applied to Yehuda's son Onan, the Abemosa, the Hakem Zera. Now, those of you who don't know the law of Yibum, I'm just going to very quickly mention. We have to mute.
Rabbi, excuse me for interrupting. What's going on? What's that sound in the background?
Yeah, we have to mute. We're going to have to mute. Be patient.
That's it.
We're going to have to mute. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm going to try to get this done. Okay, give me a moment. I'll try to mute. Okay, give me a moment. Let's see if I can do that. see if I can get it done to all. Okay. Do you hear me? You can't.
Yes,
You unmuted when you said that?
I was unmuted. I hear you.
Okay. Do you see everyone else is muted?
No,
No. Okay. Let's see if we can get everybody muted. Give me a moment. I'm going to try to do this one more time. I have to get everybody muted. I have to do that. Give me a moment. 1 second. I might have to stop this for a second. It's not going to be possible, I don't think. No, that's not it. Okay, let me go back. You go back here. All right, I'm going to have to stop the share for a moment so I can get to. Oh, wait a second. I might be able to do it now. Here we go. No, that's mute microphone. That's no good.
Everybody is muted, Rebbe.
Everybody's muted now? Okay. So we
yes, Rebbe.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
not.
Okay.
I'll mute myself.
Okay. All right. So we're
Rabbi,
yeah. Okay. Here we go.
not everybody's muted.
Okay. So then I'm going to have to do this again. I'm going to stop the share for a moment. I'll be right back. Okay. I'm going to have to take care of this because otherwise it's going to create a lot of difficulty. Where do we go over here? Participants, right? We go over to this and we hit mute all. Here we go. Okay. All right. From this point on, everyone is muted. Okay. All right. Everyone's muted. If you want to speak from this point on, you are going to have to unmute yourself. Okay. And we are now going back to the share screen. We're going to do that right now and get back to where we were. Okay. We're going right back where we were. We'll be there in a second. Here we go. Okay. We're back there. Here we are. Now, so Er is killed, and Yehuda here in Pasuk Hey, Yehuda says to Onan, Bo Elisha Sochicha v'yabemosa v'hokem zera le'ochicha. Here we are. V'hokem zera le'ochicha. So he'll have a child. So Onan was always wicked also, and he did not want to have a child with Tamar, so he did not allow her to become pregnant, and it was bad in the eyes of Hashem because he was Motzi Zera Levatala, he was wasting seed, and Hashem killed him too. And then Yehuda, now here in Yadolaf, here we begin the saga. And Yehuda says to Tamar, Kaloso, right? Yehuda says to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, Shevi almeno beisavich. I want you to go home and be a widow. Yet you are a widow twice with my two sons. And wait until my son Shelah grows up. And the reason he did this is because he said, Ki Amar Pen Yomos Gamu Ke'achav. This woman is a dangerous woman. I don't want my son Shelah to marry her. She might die also. So Tamar went and she lived in her father's house. She went home. Now, a long time went by. Vayirbu Hayomim. And the days went on, and Thomas Bashua Eshes Yehuda's wife died, and Yehuda was needed consolation, and he went to shear his sheep, and his friend Chira went with him to Timnah, and when he gets there, it's told to Tamar. Now Tamar is coming back in the picture. If the years went by, excuse me, Vayugad the Tamar Lamar. It's told to Tamar saying, here comes your father-in-law. He's going to Timnah to share the sheep. So what she does is this, in Yud Dalet, right here. It says she takes off her widow's clothing and she covers up her face with a veil and she hides who she is and she sits at the crossroads, which is on the way to the city of Timnah where Yehuda was, because she saw that the third son was growing up and she was not given to him as a wife, which she expected she would be given to him. And Yehuda saw her when she was covered up with her face by Yachshevel L'Zonah. And he thought she was a woman of ill repute. He thought she was a harlot. a zona because she covered her face. Now, normally a woman of ill repute does not cover her face. She's brazen, not shy. So what does it mean, ki kisses sopaneh? So Rashi on this comments, which we're not going to be able to go to, which is going to take my word for it. Rashi says, you know why Yehuda didn't know who she was? Because when she was married to and Onan, she always wore a veil. She always covered her face. She was a tenua, and he never saw what she looked like. So he didn't know that Tamar was his daughter-in-law. And the pasuk goes further. Now, don't think this is going to end up pretty. It's not necessarily pretty at the beginning, certainly. Anyway, he goes to her and he says to her, he didn't know that this was his daughter-in-law. He says, you're interested in a one-night stand? Are you interested? And that's what he says to her. Can we have relations? So she says, wait a minute. What are you, matitenli? What are you going to give me? You got to pay me. What are you going to give me? So he says, you know what? I don't have anything with you right now, but Anochi Ashala Gidi Izim Minatzon, I'm going to send you some goats from the sheep. And she said, yeah, but give me some Eravon, give me some security until then. Give me some security. So he says, what do you want? So she says, here's what I want. I want your signet ring. You hear this? I want your signet ring. I want your cloak, and I want your staff that's in your hand. And he gives it to her. And they had relations. The pasuk says in Yutes, Vatokon vatelech, she went and she took off the veil and she put on her old widow's clothes. And Yehuda sent what he said he would in the hands of his friend, the Adulami, to take back the surety, to get back what he had given her. And he asked the people about the place. Where is, he uses the expression, Aye akedesha hiba einayim ala darach. Where is this? He calls her a kadesha, which is the opposite of zona, because it's a euphemistic expression of the Torah speaking in a fine way. Where is the unholy one that was on the road over here? And they said, no, there's never been anybody over here. There's never been anybody over here of that repute. So he goes back to Yehuda. He said, no, I didn't find her. And the people have said they don't know anything about such a woman. And Yehuda said, okay, you know what? Let her keep it. I don't want to have anything to do with this people. Lest I get a bad name. Lest they get a bad name. So don't say anything. Leave it. Let her keep it. Okay. Now comes the crux of the matter, and these last psukim are the ones that we're going to focus on. Okay. It was after 3 months. Vayugad Yehuda lemar. It's told to Yehuda saying, Zonsa Tamar kalosecha. Your daughter-in-law has committed harlotry. V'gamine horal is nunim. And she's pregnant. And Yehuda says 2 crucial words. He says right here. Yehuda and let's get back over here. And Yehuda says, let me just write this out and we'll stretch these words. Hotzi'uha v'tisoref. Take her out and burn her. Now, why did Yehuda say take her out and burn her? Burn her at the stake. Tamar was none other than the daughter of Shem. The daughter of Shem
She's Cohen? He was Cohen?
was a Kohen, right?
That's his favorite.
Kohen l'keil alyon, says Rashi. He was a Kohen. And the pasuk says, in Emor, Ubasish Kohen. The daughter of a Kohen that goes and does nus, but Eshti Saref. So he paskin, she's the daughter of a Kohen. He didn't know it was him yet. He said, take her out and burn her. She sinned, take her out and burn her. Wait a minute. Says the pasuk. He mutseis. They took her out. Look what she does. This is unbelievable now. She's about to be burned at the stake. They took her out to burn her at the stake. Fire's ready. The stake is ready. The Bezdin Paskin, Yehuda was the Av Bezdin. He was the king. He Paskin the Shaila. She deserves death. She sends a note to Yehuda saying the following. She says, unbelievable words. She says, Le'ish asher elelo, the man who owns these things, anochi hara. That's the one who made me pregnant. Here's the ring. Here's my cloak. Here's everything. Here's the stick. Here is everything. Vatomer. And she said, Hakerna, recognize, please. Lemi hachosemes vapsilim v'hamate ha'ela. Who do these things belong to? It's interesting. If you'll take a look at the words Hakerna, we're going to come back to this in a moment. But I want you to look at these words. Hakerna. I'm going to highlight them right now. You know what Hakerna means? Hakerna means please recognize this. I want you to see something. Hold on. We're going to come right back to this story. I'm just going right back a little bit. Okay? So, Reuven comes back to the pit. The child's not there. This is before he was sold. He was sold now, and he took Yosef's ksones. He slaughtered a goat, and he dipped the ksones in blood, and he sends the ksones pasim, and they bring it to their father, and he says, we found this, and listen to the words the brothers said. The brothers said, Hakerna, recognize, please. Haksonas bin Chahiyim lo, is this your son's cloak that's filled with blood? He recognized it and he said, that is my son's cloak. A wild animal has devoured him. Now we go down over here. And sure enough, what happens when she is taken out to be burned? What does she say? She says exactly the same words. Hakerna. Oh boy, is that not a slap in the face right there? The exact same words you, Yehuda, used when you showed this blood-stained cloak to your father, claiming Yosef was dead. Hakerna. Recognize, please, to who do these things belong? And the pasuk says the following. Now, I don't want to go too far afield, but I think it's important for us to keep in mind that Yehuda has a choice here. Yehuda is caught red-handed doing something absolutely terrible. He's caught with being with a woman in an improper fashion. Now, Chazal make it good. Our rabbis have come along and said, well, yes, technically what he did was wrong, but you should know that he made sure that even though the act that he did was wrong, he made sure to do it in such a way that it was technically legal. How? By giving her kedushin. He gave her a ring. Arayat mekudeshes li b'taba azu. He made her his wife, technically speaking. It's true. We're not going to whitewash it. The Torah doesn't whitewash it. But the fact is that even though there's a sense of immorality here, there is also the understanding that Yehuda was not a completely obtuse, immoral person. He wanted to do something right in the eyes of Hashem. And so he gave her a bride price. Now, Yehuda has a choice at this point. He could protect his image forever. He could easily say, well, nobody knows about it but me and her. Take her out and burn her. The secret will die with her. No one will ever know. No one will ever know. Is that not a moral dilemma? Have we ever heard in our lifetimes of a possible immoral act that ended up with the girl's death? somewhere at the bottom of a lake or river up in the northeast by one of the kings of
Ted Kennedy.
Oh, I didn't say it.
The swimmer.
We didn't say it. But the challenge is unbelievable. Yehuda rises to the occasion. He could have easily hid the entire thing and let her go to her death. But that's not what he does. Vayaker Yehuda, says the pasuk that's highlighted. And Yehuda recognizes Vayomer, and he says two powerful words. Sodka, she is righteous. Me many, more than I. Oh boy, I just lost it. I knew I was going to do that. Okay, we're gonna lose the share any second now, guys. So be patient. Don't worry about it. This program has a glitch in it. If I go backwards one step, I lose the whole program. So you'll have to be patient with me. I'm going to get it back. I'll get it back in a minute. But right now it's lost. It's going to be lost any second. I'm afraid. There it goes. It's going to be lost any second. I'm going to have to stop the share because otherwise we're going to lose it completely. I'm going to start and see if I can get it back. Hold on. Let's see if we can get it back. I think so. Okay, let's see. No, it's still not responding. We'll have to wait a moment. I'm going to have to go into that. I'm going to have to go into that program and exit out and then come back. So be patient. We will get it back. That's guaranteed. We will get it back somewhere, somehow. Hey, guys, come on. Give me a break. Oh, come on. Oh, I can do this. Okay, I can do that. Okay. Let's see if it's still not responding, but I can go get it again. No problem. It's still not responding. But let's see if we can get it again. Control. Let's see. I'm going to try again. Oops. All right. It disappeared. I stopped share for a second. We'll be right back. I'm going to start again. We'll see if we can get it again. It's still not responding, I don't think. It's still not responding. Nope, it's still not responding. I'm going to have to stop the share and exit out and get it and start all over with that. Okay, so I'll come back to it in a minute. We'll come back in a moment. I'm going to take you off the screen for a moment. I'll be right back. I'm going to have to go back and get the share. Be patient. I'm going to have to go back and get it. I'm always worried about that happening. It's still not responding. I have to get out of here. Unbelievable. Okay, now it's going to respond. No, that's the Zoom. Okay. Zoom. Let's go back here. Let me go get my Judaic classics all over again. You might have sure I want people to have things. We'll get it in a second. We're going to be there in a moment. Okay. Let's go back to our Zoom. Okay. Here we go. And let's see if we can't get that share back now. I'm sorry about that. That was a glitch that I was afraid could happen. Okay, here we go. We're back here. Okay. So now we're back to where, unfortunately, we're back to where we left off. We lost a few moments, but we're going to try to make it up. So anyway, so she says at this point, this is where we left off over here, Tomer, and she says, look at the third line up from the end of the parak. Okay. Where's my cursor? Here we go. And she says, Haker na, please recognize, to who these things belong. And Yehuda recognizes and he says, Sodka mimeni. She is more righteous than I, because I didn't give her to my son Shelah. Velo yasaf od ledata. He never lived with her again. According to this pasuk, that's what it says. Anyway, it was when she gave birth. There were twins in her womb, and when she gave birth, the one came forward, and there was a red thread that was tied onto his hand, and the midwife said this one came out first, and it was when he put his hand back, the other one came out, and she said, why have you breached the first one? And they called his name Peretz. And then came the other one, and his name was Zarach. As you know, Peretz was the great grandfather of David HaMelech of the Mashiach. So while Yosef was sold to Mitzrayim and Yehuda is misbehaving, something's going on over here. And what's going on? The Mashiach is being born. The craziest, most unbelievable fashion, which we would never expect from such a union to come Mashiach. We'd never expect it, not in a million years. And there's more to this. I wish I had time to go through with you about David HaMelech himself, but we'll have to wait for that until we get to some discussion perhaps about Rus. But that's not for today. Just suffice it to say that while all this is going on in the life of Yaakov and his family, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in the middle of building the family of Mashiach. And we're going to see, and we're going to come back and see more of this in a few moments. What I want to do now is, I want to contrast this with what happens in next week's Sedra. I'm not even going to show it to you. We're going to discuss it. In next week's Sedra, Yosef is down in Egypt, right? I'm sorry. It's in this week's Sedra. Excuse me. I'm sorry. It's not next week. It's this week's Sedra. I don't know why I said next week. The next Perek. Here it is. In this week's Sedra, right here. Okay. It says Yosef was taken down to Egypt, right? And Potiphar buys him, and he's in the house, right? Now look what it says here about Yosef. Vayimsa, Pasuk Daled. Vayimsa Yosef Chaim Ba'einav. Yosef finds favor in Potiphar's eyes. He served him. He appointed him on his house. And it says, V'chol yesh lo nosan biyodo. He gave everything into his hand. He trusted him with everything. And it was when he trusted him with everything in his hand and everything there was, it says, Vayivarech Hashem es beis hamitzri. Hashem blessed the house of the Egyptian. This is a fulfillment of a prophecy we discussed back in Lech Lecha, that wherever the Jews go, wherever your children go, there's going to be blessing. And sure enough, Hashem blesses the house of the Mitzri because of Yosef, and the Birkas Hashem was in everything he did. And now watch this. Vayazov es kol asher lo biyad Yosef. He trusted everything to the hand of Yosef, and he knew nothing that Yosef did. Ki im alechem asher hu ochel. The only thing that he did not entrust with Yosef was the lechem asher hu ochel. And Rashi says, this is a reference in a nice way, that he even entrusted him in the house with his wife and knew he would not touch her. And the pasuk tells us that Yosef was a Yefas Torah and a Yefei Mareh. Okay, we know what happens next. The wife of Potiphar starts making eyes at Yosef. This is one of the most heart-wrenching chapters in the life of Yosef. He's a young man at the height of his powers, and he's faced with this Egyptian princess who the Torah describes as a very, very alluring woman. And the pasuk says, Vatomer, she doesn't mince words. She says to Yosef, Shichva imi, get it on with me. She says it as straight out as she can. The most brazen, improper fashion you can imagine. And I want you to focus on this one next word, if you can, please, with me. Vayima'ain. And he refused. Do you see the trup on top of Vayima'ain? Do you see the trup? Do you see the note? The note is a shalsheles. You know what a shalsheles sounds like? What does it sound like? It sounds like he's refusing time and time and time again. She didn't let up. The Gemara says she attacked him morning, noon, and night. She did everything she could to get him to sin with her. So he answers, said, no, he trusts me with everything. Nobody is bigger in this house than me. I can't do this. It's how can I do this? He says, I'm going to sin against God. But you know what happens? She speaks to Yosef day by day. Can you imagine a 17-year-old out of his own environment, down in Egypt, being attacked by one of the most alluring people on earth, being a slave to the master, and day by day, she drives him nuts? Yosef HaTzadik. That's how he got the name, people. Anyway, he doesn't listen to her. He doesn't even want to be with her. And one day, he comes into the house to do his job, and there's nobody in the house. She grabs him, she grabs him by his garments, saying, Shichva. He runs out, and he left his garment with her, and he runs outside. I don't want to be in this room with her. And it was when she saw that he ran away, so she called the people of a house, and she said to them, look, my husband brought a Hebrew man to make fun of us. He came to me, he tried to rape me, and now I screamed in a big voice. And it was when he heard my voice, he ran outside and he left the cloak. Here, look, I've got the cloak. I've got it, Wow. The beginning of the blood libel of the Jewish people. Anyway, she holds on to the garment until her husband comes home. And she says to him, you know what he was trying to do to me? Kadvarim ha'ele. He was trying to get it on with me. This guy is terrible. And it was when I screamed, and he left his garment with me. Now, let me ask you something. We're in Egypt here. Okay. We're in Egypt in primitive times. The law of the land is the law of the jungle. There's no such thing as no such thing as a forgiving, of a pardon, right? Now, when her husband hears this, if he knew that this was really so, what do you think he would have done at that moment to the slave boy who was accused of attacking his beautiful, wonderful wife, innocent, so sweet, what a wonderful lady, Mrs. Potiphar, par excellence? What would you think should be his response? But that's not what he does. We would expect that at this point, he would take his sword out and off with the head. There would be no chance. There'd be nothing to talk about.
He would want to kill him.
He would kill him instantly.
Right.
There'd be no questions asked. He would kill him instantly. There would not be a trial. There wouldn't be no due process, no habeas corpus, they wouldn't have read him his Miranda rights. There wouldn't have been anything like that. Okay, but what happens instead? What happens is, right? So what does he do? Here's what he does. He got angry. Vayikach Adonai Yosef Oso. The master of Yosef takes him and he puts him in the prison. And he was there in the prison. All right. Okay. So Potiphar's wife tried to get Yosef to sin with him. Well, why did she do that? Was it purely that she was just an evil person? Perhaps. It's possible. But Rashi quotes Chazal and says that she had a vision. Tamar had a vision. Potiphar's wife had a vision. Tamar had a vision that she was going to be the mother of Mashiach. So she knew that Yehuda or one of his family was going to have children with her that were going to be the progenitors of Mashiach. Potiphar's wife had a vision that she was going to have a descendant from Yosef. She had that vision, says Chazal. She had a vision. She was going to have a descendant from Yosef. So Tamar had a vision. Potiphar's wife had a vision. But look at the difference in what happened. When Tamar had the vision and it didn't pan out, she was ready to go to the stake and be burned rather than implicate Yehuda. When Potiphar's wife saw that she can't win, she wanted Yosef dead. If I can't have what I want him dead. Reb Baruch Ber Leibovitz, the great Rosh Yeshiva of Kamenetz, teaches a powerful lesson through something he did. There were many wonderful students in the yeshiva in Kamenetz 100 years ago, actually more than 100, 115, 120 years ago. I am to know that because I had an uncle, Zechrono Livracha, who had smicha from Reb Baruch Ber Leibovitz. I have the smicha. Actually, my brother has the smicha. I have some of his svarim, and he had smicha from the great Reb Baruch Ber. He learned in the yeshiva in Kamenetz. And Reb Baruch Ber had a daughter who was getting on in years and didn't find a chassid. And one day, one of the boys in the yeshiva, who was an excellent Talmid Chacham, an outstanding Talmid Chacham, was approached with a suggestion that he marry Reb Baruch Ber's daughter. And he agreed. They went out, he agreed, they got engaged. They got engaged. Reb Baruch Ber was in seventh heaven. He was the happiest guy on earth. She not only met a chassan, but what a chassan. What a Talmid Chacham. What a great guy. And Reb Baruch Ber said to him, you know, the engagement is going to be a while till we get ready to prepare for the chasana, as was the custom in those days. I don't want you to stay in this yeshiva. It's not healthy. I'm sending you to one of my colleagues, one of the other yeshivas. I want you to go and learn there for the period of time till the chasana. You'll come back and it'll be like Yehuda Moshe Oda V'Simcha V'Sasam V'Yikar. Not long after the boy went to the other yeshiva, an envelope is delivered to Reb Baruch Ber. Inside is the watch, the money, the gifts that Reb Baruch Ber had given to the chassan. And the chassan writes a letter saying, I'm sorry, I've decided I cannot marry your daughter. I wish you the best. Shalom. Reb Baruch Ber was devastated. Here was his daughter who was getting on in years. Wonderful though she was, it was going to be harder and harder, especially after a rejection for one of the top boys in Kamenetz. He was beside himself. He didn't know what to do. Nobody knew until a few years later the greatness of Reb Baruch Ber. A few years later, Reb Baruch Ber called in the top students in the yeshiva who formed the yeshiva's Bezdin. And he showed them a letter. And he says to the students, tell me, I want you to read this letter. Is there anything in this letter that has a bad feeling in it? That has any anger in it? That has any vengeance in it? That has any nekama in it? Let me tell you what the letter was. This student who had turned his back on Reb Baruch Ber's daughter and sent back the gifts, a few years later wrote a sefer. And he wanted Reb Baruch Ber to give him a haskama on the sefer. And he applied for the position of a rav in a town. And he wanted him to write a recommendation for him to get the position of the Morad Aser of that town. And Reb Baruch Ber wrote the letter. And he showed it to the Vad. And he said to them, do you sense any bad feeling here? I'm afraid because of my upset over what he did to my daughter, maybe I didn't write the right recommendation. Maybe I didn't write the right haskama. Maybe I'm taking some vengeance or I'm doing something that is wrong. And all of them couldn't believe what they were reading. The glowing letter of haskama and of acceptance of the Rabbanis. He couldn't get over the unbelievable righteousness of Reb Baruch Ber. What happened here with Yosef and Potiphar's wife is the exact opposite. She was so vengeful, she wanted him dead. While Tamar was willing to go to the stake. And even though they both had a prophecy, it depends what you do with what you have. What do we do with our Yiddishkeit? What do we do with this Torah that we've been given? How do we deal with adversity? How do we overcome such a disappointment? Ela told us Yaakov, Yosef. These are the generations of Yaakov. Yosef. You know what Yosef means? Yosef means we keep adding on. We keep getting better. We don't get worse. We don't get vengeful. We don't get sad. We don't get angry. Instead, we do what Tamar did. Now, the Gemara in a few places, one in Ksubis, there's one in Brachas, says the following. Noach lo la'adam. I can't show it to you on the screen because it was wiped out before, but trust me, it says it in a number of places. If you want, I'll give you the daf. You can look it up. I'll give you the daf page. You can look it up. It's in Bava Metzia, daf Nun Tes, in Brachas, daf Mem Gimel, and in Ksuvis, daf Samech Zayin. I had all three places ready before, but now we can't get it. It's a little bit late. So, I want you to know, it says the following, Noach lo la'adam. It is better for a person, lahapil atzmo lekivshon shel eish, to throw himself into a burning fire, v'lo lahalbim pnei chaveiro berabim, and not to embarrass someone in public. Where do we learn it from? Tamar. We learn it from Tamar. Because she was willing to go into the stake. She was willing to go into the stake with her children in her womb, knowing that she's carrying Mashiach. Mashiach cannot come if I embarrass somebody in public. You can't embarrass someone in public. You must do the right thing, no matter what the difficulties, no matter how unpleasant it may be. And also to know that when things don't work out, the way your prophecy dictates, you're not going to become vengeful like Potiphar's wife, who all Chazal call an Isha Risha'ah, a wicked woman, while Tamar, despite what she did, is praised to the heavens for what she did. And not only that, but Yehuda himself, who admitted his fault. Yehuda himself, who said the unbelievable words. He said, Tzadka mimeni. She is more righteous than I. She is righteous because it's from me. This whole thing came from me. Yehuda self-debased himself in order to admit the truth. You know what happens when someone grows like that? You know what happens when someone makes a mistake and after the mistake, they realize what they did and they raise themselves up from that? They bring Mashiach. That's what happens. Yehuda brought Mashiach. There's a lot more to this hedger than just this particular section. And there's a lot more to this particular section than I've discussed with you tonight. But you see how in-depth we have to go in order to understand the Parsha, in order to understand the nuances that are there for us to cull and develop the humanity that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. Not to embarrass someone, to take life's difficulties in a way that we know that as long as we do the right thing, everything is going to be right, even if we don't see it immediately. And on the other hand, never to become vengeful and angry because we can't get what we want. The truth of the matter is that Potiphar's wife was not interested in Yosef at all. She was interested in her. If you were interested in Yosef, you wouldn't want to debase him. If you were interested in Yosef, you wouldn't have done what you did. And the truth is that Tamar was not interested in herself. She was interested in Yehuda and his progeny. And that's why she came out as the mother of Mashiach. Because when you do things right and you suffer the consequences as difficult as they may be, and you put your trust in the righteous actions that Hashem wants from us, that's the bringing of Mashiach. That's the end result. And that's why this Perek is so crucial and so valuable and so important to us, and is used as the paradigm for all of us to recognize the nature of Yosef HaTzadik and the kingship of Yehuda Melech Yehuda. Melech Yisrael. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable what I was saying. Okay, I'm sorry we spent the whole time on this one thing. There's so much more. There's so much more in this week's Sedra that I'd love to focus on, but unfortunately, it's really, let me give you one more. I'll tell you what, let me give you one Dvar Torah that you can say over at the table that's short, okay? And that's really beautiful, okay? And I'm gonna give it to you now. We're gonna see it right here. In this particular paper, here it is. Here it is. Listen to this. Here we go. Watch this. Pasuk Chav Daled. All right. It's in Perek Lamed Zayin. Pasuk Chav Daled. We're going to do one quick pasuk on a short word, so you have something to say over at the Shabbos table. I'm going to try to get the whole sentence. Hold on. Let me try to get the whole sentence. 1 second. We're going to go here. We're almost there. Give me 1 second. Oh, come on. Where'd you go? He was here a second ago. Now it doesn't. Oh, there it is. Okay. There it is. Okay. They took Vayikachu, they took Yosef, Vayashlichu oso habora, and they threw him into the pit. The habor rake, ein bo mayim. And the pit was empty, there was no water. There are two outstanding things with this particular pasuk that I hope you can see. The first one is obvious because Rashi mentions it. It says v'habor rake ein bo mayim, and the pit was empty, there was no water. Dabosai, if there's no water, if the pit is empty, then there's no water. Why does it have to say v'habor rake ein bo mayim? If the pit is empty, there was no water. So Rashi quotes the Gemara in Shabbos on Chav Beis. Look it up. It's on Daf Chav Beis on the top of Masechta Shabbos. Chav Aleph on the bottom and Chav Beis on the top. It says v'habor rake mayim ein bo. But there were snakes and scorpions in it. Now, that's the number one. Secondly, do you notice anything unique about the spelling? Take a look. Nabosai, take a look over here. I don't know if you noticed this, but right here. How does it spell habor here? Hey, beis, reish, hey. What's missing?
Vav.
There's a vav missing. Vav. But wait a minute. Here it is. The habor with a vav. How did Rashi know there were snakes and scorpions in there, besides the fact that the Gemara says it? How did the Gemara know that there were snakes and scorpions in there? Simple. Simple. The bor without a vav was empty of anything good. But the bor with a vav had what looks like a vav, a snake. The bor had snakes and scorpions. The Vilna Gaon goes wild over this particular pasuk, and he says, you know what the pit is? The pit is your mind. If your mind is empty, it means it's empty of anything good. And it's going to get filled with something. It's going to get filled with snakes and scorpions. But if you fill your mind with Mayim Chayim Shel Torah, if you fill your mind with the living waters of the Torah, then your mind won't have snakes and scorpions. Your mind will be a mind that is able to Eila Toldos Yaakov Yosef, that the generations of the Jews will continue adding on and growing bigger and bigger and bigger because we are adding on in our Torah. If you'll take a look at the Gemara in Shabbos on this particular pasuk, you'll see that this is a statement that is followed immediately by a statement that a Hanukkah menorah can't be higher than 20 amos. The very next statement, which is said in the Gemara, is a statement which says, Chanukah l'mayla me'esrim ama psula. A Hanukkah menorah that's higher than 20 amos is no good. You got to take it down. It's not going to be acceptable. Why are those two statements together? There are a number of reasons. One of them is because Parsha's Vayeshev is invariably read right before Hanukkah. That's why. And Hanukkah teaches us that the light of Torah must be filled in our minds. Because if we don't fill our minds with Torah, and the light of Torah, which is represented by Hanukkah lights, then there's not going to be water in it. There's going to be Nechashim v'akrabim yeshbo. Powerful, powerful statement by the Vilna Gaon. Okay, Rabosai, let me stop the share for a moment. We'll get back to the screen. All right, Rabosai, are there any questions? Anything that I can do any more about this? Okay.
Rabbi,
yeah,
a very powerful share tonight. Very powerful. Yes, very powerful.
Sorry, we spoke on one thing so long, but it's powerful. It needed to be done.
Right, right.
Yes.
Rabbi,
By the way, we're not finished. We're not finished. Hold on. We're not finished. First of all, we're all going to wish a refuah shleimus to Menachem Mordechai ben Ofira. That we hope that Hashem sends him a refuah shleimus. He's on the Zoom with us, and we wish him a refuah shleimus, as we mention every time in Shabbos in the shul. And it's part
Refuah shleima.
Part of our shul. It's part of our lives, and we
Amen.
time. Amen. And we should be zocha all to see simchas. Any questions? Okay.
Rabbi,
I want to wish you all a wonderful good Shabbos. Shabbos mevarchim hachodesh. Don't forget a chazan and choir are davening this week. So join in together. We thank our sponsors, and everybody should join in. Got a beautiful shiur tonight. Thank you for your attendance. And Aviyat Hashem, you should have a wonderful, wonderful lichtik and feilach and Chanukah. And we'll see you next Thursday night on Chanukah itself.
With filmers.
Next Thursday night on Hanukkah. I'm serving virtual latkes.
Zoom donuts.
Zoom donuts, yeah.
Right.
Zoom donuts and Zoom latkes. Okay. So have a great Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Okay, Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos.